Now, joining me in the studio for Talk of the Nation is Ibrahim Bbosa, and we're going to be talking about the SIM card registration and the switch-off that happened earlier today in Talk of the Nation that's coming up. Thank you very much. Like I mentioned earlier, we're joined by Ibrahim Bbosa, who is the Manager of Consumer Affairs of Uganda Communications Commission. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure being on NTV.
What was your day like today?
Actually, today was brilliant, I must say, because one, it is important to note that many Ugandans have actually made the cutoff. As we speak as of today, we have 22.4 million NINs that were submitted for verification. 17.4 of those have been fully verified. But the beauty of this is that everybody who submitted a NIN for SIM card verification is good to go. So
are you sure about that? Because I've been reading on social media a lot of people saying they registered. It might have been at the last minute, but they did register and sent in all their details, but then they've been cut off.
Actually, everybody who submitted before the deadline was not cut off.
I will beg to differ because I can speak for myself.
Which is good.
Yes.
Which is good. And this is what I think we should emphasize. One, it's possible in a technology environment, if you're talking about engineering, something can actually happen, could actually go wrong. We have been requesting people who actually have such instances where you actually submitted your NIN but have been deactivated to actually put forward these numbers. Up to now, we have not yet. Put them
forward where?
I mean, let us know, because this what happens. It is we gave a directive to operators, and they're supposed to follow a certain pattern. Deactivate numbers that were having no NINs. Okay, a number with an NIN, verified or not yet, as long as it was submitted, that was not to be deactivated. Anybody who is submitting after the deadline has to wait for NIRA's verification before they can actually be reconnected. So we did not expect that there will be anybody who has submitted a valid NIN to be affected by this. So up to now we have not yet received this, but in case these people are, because we have been in touch with the operators, they have been following a very systematic process in doing this. You only have to send evidence to your operator or present evidence to your operator that you actually got a message saying that you are successfully verified, and then you would be probably reconnected. But as of now, I know we have many people who are making a fuss about the process, either because, you know, they didn't like it or not.
Well, we've gone through the whole, I didn't like it, but the question then is the ones who made the effort and it didn't pay off. And also the ones who in this process, this last couple of weeks, kept trying to register, and for some reason, some telecom companies were not able to do it. I don't want to name companies, but I know that some people tried. They weren't able to take them.
Now, from the history of this verification exercise, we know that some operators had difficulties in keeping the short code stable, the star 1976, star 1977 hash. However, what they did was to open up a spectrum of avenues where people could still be able to submit. Some came up with WhatsApp platforms, so if you can't use the code 197, you could use the WhatsApp. There are those who came up with an SMS version of 197. You could actually send an SMS to that. Others came up with actually some internet-based platforms, especially those who were offering data. So there was a broad spectrum of how somebody could submit their details for verification. So when one method was difficult, for any reason, when you have a network, it could be a congestion, it could be anything, there will always be somewhere you can always fall back to.
You speak in the past tense. This doesn't work anymore, these methods?
Excellent. Now, right now, because we are past the deadline, and the focus was to get as many people as possible as effortless being able to submit. Now that it is past the deadline, you have two options. One, to use the star 197 hash to send your NIN. Two, to make a physical visit to the operator. Now, the beauty is, we are talking about 22.8 SIM cards in the market. As of this morning, we're talking about 22.4 who have already fulfilled this. So the number of people left should be able to use those platforms to be able to do the same job. If the operators can leave all the other platforms available, then will be it.
Okay, could you just clarify, especially for mobile, when it comes to mobile money? We're watching a story earlier, and people seem to have the fear that the money that they have, regardless of what we read, we had in the news yesterday about how that was taken care of. People have the fear that they cannot withdraw. They can see that my money is still there, but I cannot touch it.
Okay, it's important to note that mobile money is governed by two jurisdictions. Bank of Uganda actually governs the mobile money platform, and UCC governs the platform on which mobile money rides as a regulator of telecommunications. Now, the mobile money was not to be affected. This was a concern by many stakeholders, including, I think, the legislature, on issues of mobile money. Even the telecoms themselves had a concern on this. So mobile money is not to be affected. Any balances that are on there, one should be able to either withdraw them, or you can actually make a purchase, you can make a payment using the usual methods. And the requirement was people should not be able to deposit more mobile money. Okay. Now, as we speak right now, I think some operators needed to write scripts to be able to make that functional, because I've had some people have been able to still to deposit more money, mobile money. But that said, mobile money is not to be affected, and nobody should worry that they're going to lose money because of the deactivation.
Okay. Well, you told us you are going to deactivate the SIM cards on the 20th, and you did. And regardless of how many parties were being thrown, that knowing we would postpone again, is there a chance that this exercise could be postponed, keeping in mind the number of people that have not been able to register?
One, I think we are in the last mile. This exercise basically has three phases. The first phase, I think we have done great. We have to thank the country, people who have done that, the operators and stakeholders. There's no other extension. What we have right now is that anybody who has not yet been able to fulfill, to comply with the verification, the options you have are either you find time, if you don't have a national ID, register for one, get an NIN, and be able to verify. Your phone will be reconnected. People should be aware that we have an industry practice. If a phone is inactive for 90 days with no billable transaction on it, the operator has the option to churn it and put it back in the pool to be issued to somebody else. Number. So meaning you have 90 days to be able to comply if you still want your SIM back. If you comply, you will be reconnected. If you do not, that after 90 days, that SIM card will not be used anymore. Okay. So we do not have any other process other than that. But of course, people should know that after that, we have some validation that will be going on. Many of us, the names that we have on our national identification numbers do not tally with the names you initially gave the operator, okay? Yes. But we have done this. So now that we know you are so and so, it's a question of now merging with your previous registration with the operator. That is something that will not be done with any fiascos going around. There's not going to be announcements. The operator will be reaching out to every individual just to confirm that the details we have about you are different from this, so we just need to be able to match that. The last phase will be basically to queue to know that every NIN must have a maximum of 10 numbers registered on it. You as a subscriber will also be able to query the 197 code and see how many numbers have been actually registered on your NIN. So you said, but I have 5 numbers. If somebody was able to beat any one of the two processes, you can actually say, that's not my number.
Please take it off. Exactly. Yes, I was going to ask about the people who have been registering with their friends' numbers, NINs. True.
Now, it's important for Ugandans. I know people feel anxious, I think, or excited when they are beating the system. It is an offense in this country under the Registration of Persons Act in Section 77. It's an offense to share a NIN, because a NIN is a specific identifying feature for an individual. So if you are sharing a NIN, one of you is impersonating somebody. You get me? So under the penal code, you can't impersonate somebody. But under the ROPA, it's an offense to share a NIN. It's an offense for you to let somebody use your NIN. It's also an offense to be found in the possession of somebody's national identity card unlawfully, especially people who are using the identity cards of dead people. Because at the end of the day, probably you're impersonating a dead person. So it's an offense that one can take you to jail for, I think, up to 3 years. Okay. And also there are currency points that can be penalized. So that people should know that we have agencies who are critically interested in this process. And they are looking out because we know that unscrupulous individuals would want to be able to camouflage and be able to impersonate other people in terms of committing crime. So you don't want to be found on the wrong side of the law when you innocently thought you were sharing a NIN with a brother, a sister, or a friend.
Do you see any lawsuits coming out of the fact that some people have tried and the process just hasn't worked for them?
I think it's only fair, because, I mean, this is a democratic country, and people would be unhappy for one reason or another, right? So if you are dissatisfied, I think it is only right that you get redress, and going to the court of law really can, you know, can put that to peace. We are usually ready for that. We also are usually ready for that, exactly. Okay. And we expect that people can be happy about the process. And my final question to you, our time is fast spent. Have we considered the implication on this on the telecom companies? Absolutely. The taxes and all of that. Now, one, the telecom companies have been part of this process from day one. Okay, they are key stakeholders here, and everything that we have actually done has, in a way, been unanimously agreed upon. So they know what they're going into. But what people should not forget that in 2013, that was August 31st, when the active SIM card registration happened, we actually deactivated 3 million SIM cards. Okay, 2015, November 30th, we had a category of people we called pre-registered. Okay, partially registered SIM cards. People had missing information on their registration. We had given allowance to the operators to reach out to these people to fill up this information. When this didn't happen, we actually deactivated 2.2 million SIM cards. This time round, the figure we're talking about is probably much less than 1 million SIM cards. Okay. So I think the operators appreciate this, in that people who will be reconnecting within the next couple of weeks, but also people who are unscrupulous and definitely have been using those SIM cards for something very different than usual communication. Okay, so we shouldn't wait for an extension. There's nothing like that. Thank you very much. I've been speaking to Ibrahim Bbosa, who is the Manager of Consumer Affairs of UCC, and that was Talk of the Nation.